Welcome back to Made by Heart Homestead. I'm canning kidney beans today for our chili, and I thought I would bring you along. Our Dollar Tree has them $1 a bag. I can get 2-quart jars out of one bag, so that makes them about 50 cents a jar. And the ones that we buy in the store are $1.19 a can, and we use 2 cans. But one of these jars is equal to 2 cans. So it's more economical to do it this way. I'm doing the no-soak method, so this is not an approved method for canning beans, but I have done it. I know a few people that have done it this way, and they turn out good. But this, like I said, this isn't approved, so you need to do your research to find out if this is for you. I've washed my jars in the dishwasher, so they are clean. I'm adding a cup of beans to each jar. I have soaked and rinsed my beans. Looks like I missed a piece. I don't sterilize my jars when I'm pressure canning. And I don't soak my lids when I'm pressure canning. And the reason is the temperature in your pressure canner gets a lot hotter than boiling water on the stove. So if the heat from the pressure canner doesn't sterilize my jars and my lids, then boiling water definitely isn't going to. But that's just the way I do it. And if you feel more comfortable sterilizing your jars and lids, then by all means, go ahead and do that. I'm going to fill my jars up with water. I'm using cold water, so my pressure canner will be cold. You never want to put hot jars in a cold canner, and you never want to put cold jars in a hot canner. So I'm going to leave an inch of headspace. I know a cup of beans doesn't look much like it's going to be very much in there, but it'll be the perfect amount of beans. I'm going to scoop out any beans that are floating on top, because those are going to be bad beans. Now I'm going to debubble. Make sure there's no bubbles trapped in my beans. Anytime I've ever had a jar fail to seal, if I thought back, I could pretty much figure out that it was I either didn't debubble my jar or I didn't wipe the rim. So I'm going to wipe my, I'm going to check my headspace for an inch. That one needs a little bit more. That one needs a little bit more. Whoop. Looks like those three need just a little bit more water. Sometimes when you debubble and the bubbles come up, you will have to add a little bit more water. Good. I got one more bean that's floating, so I'm going to get that out. Now I'm going to wipe my rims. This also gives you a chance to make sure that you don't have any cracks or chips in the rim that would make it not seal. You want to make sure that there's no food on the rim. That will make it also not seal. All of them seem pretty good. And when you put your rings on, you want to put them finger tight. I'll bring you back when my canner's ready to go. Okay, I've got 1.5 inches of water in the bottom of my canner. I have my rack in the bottom. You never want to can with your jars directly on the bottom of your canner. You want to use a rack that looks just like that. That should come with your pressure canner. Now my pressure canner, this is a 15-quart All-American. And it calls for 1.5 inches of water, but now you need to read your instructions that come with your canner to find out how much water that you need in your canner. So I'm going to load my jars in. This holds 7 quarts and 9 pints, unless you're using wide mouth pints, and then it'll only hold 8. You want to make sure not to bang your jars around. Now I'm going to put a little bit of oil on a paper towel. All-American canners are metal-to-metal seal. They don't have a rubber ring inside. So what you want to do is wipe the bevel of your canner with a little bit of oil, and that helps the metal-to-metal seal. I'm going to go back over it with my finger to make sure that it's all coated. Let me get my lid. And when you're tightening up your thumb screws, you want to tighten them up opposite, 2 at a time on opposite sides. And I'm just going to get them on there a little snug right now, and I'm going to go back and tighten them up. Well, that one's not wanting to go on. There we go. snug them all up. Okay, now I'm going to turn my stove to about 6. I usually try to start out at about 6. Now when this starts venting steam, we're going to put our weight on. That's your weight. It has 5, 10, and 15 pounds on it, and we can on 10 where I'm from, because we're only like 800 and some feet above sea level. So like I said, once this starts venting, we're going to let it vent for 10 minutes. Then we'll put our weight on, and we're going to watch our gauge, and we're going to make sure that it doesn't go too much past 10 or 11. And we definitely want to make sure that it doesn't drop below 10. Anytime that your pressure drops below your canning pressure, where, like I said, minus 10, yours could be 5, could be 15. Anytime it drops below that, you have to start your time all over again. Beans, quart-sized jars of beans, can for 90 minutes. So when this thing starts venting, I'll bring you back. Okay, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's venting. I'm going to let it vent for 10 minutes. Then I'll put my weight on. And once it gets up to pressure, I'll bring you back. Okay, it's on 10 pounds of pressure. The jiggler is jiggling. And I'm going to make sure to stay here and watch the gauge and make sure it doesn't go below 10. And we're going to set our timer for 90 minutes, and I'll bring you back when it's done. Okay, the 90 minutes is up. We're going to let the pressure come all the way down to 0. We're going to wait a couple of minutes before we remove the weight. Once we remove the weight, we're going to let it sit there for a few minutes before we try to remove the lid. Once we remove the lid, we're going to leave it cocked a little bit for about 5 to 10 minutes. And I'll bring you back when I bring the jars out. Okay, we're ready to take them out, so I'm going to take the lid off. I see I have 2 that evacuated. Get those out first. They're still covered with water. So they'll be okay as long as they seal. There's my other one. You don't want to tilt your jars when you get them out. There's that one. And you don't want to bump them together. Oh, I have another one that evacuated. Just a little bit. Okay, there they are. I'll let them sit overnight, and I'll bring you back in the morning when I check them. Well, it's the next morning. I've got all my rings off, and the jars are washed. When they dry, I'll write on the top what they are, because they look so much like pinto beans that I won't be able to tell the difference. But all of them sealed. This jar right here has some of the beans above the liquid, but they'll be okay. I'll use that jar first The beans above the liquid might get a little bit dried out and turn a little darker, but they'll still be okay to eat. Now the one that, or the two of them that, like this one, they'll be fine. They'll be just fine to put on the shelf. I'll eat those after I eat this one. I'll eat the less better looking ones first. But I consider it a success. They all sealed and we can eat them. Y'all have a blessed day.